Thank you for joining Gwinnett County Public Library for our Speech and Language Developmental Milestones series. My name is Miriam Mayer, and I'm an Adult Services Specialist for the library. And today I'm joined with our partner, Meridith Rose from HomeTele SLP. Now I would like to introduce our speaker for today. Meridith Rose, MSCC SLP, is a pediatric speech-language pathologist and owner of HomeTele SLP, which was founded in June 2020. She strives to improve her clients' communication skills through the implementation of fun yet functional therapy activities that are culturally responsive in their school or home environment via teletherapy. Please welcome Meridith Rose.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's presentation on speech and language developmental milestones for children between the ages of 2 and 3. Give me one moment to share my screen. Okay, so before we get started with today's presentation, I'd like to take a moment to find out who is in the room. All right, we have a parent, another parent, perfect. So a couple of parents are here, and this is wonderful. And most of you, I'm sure, have a child between the age of 2 and 3, or maybe they're about to turn 2 or they're turning 3. So this is perfect for you. So I want to provide an overview of today's presentation. These are the different areas of communication milestones that will be discussed. So we're going to touch on the difference between speech and language. We'll talk a little about feeding speech sounds, acquisition, or when speech sounds are going to start to emerge in your child's speech repertoire, pronouns, and the types of pronouns that are expected for children between the ages of 2 to 3. We'll talk a little bit about something that's termed morphology. So we'll talk about word and word units. The mean length of utterance has to do with the length of the words that your child is using. Maybe they're using 1 word or 2 or 3 word combinations. So that's what you want to think about when you hear me talk about mean length of utterance. We'll also talk a little about pragmatics or social skills, literacy, which is tied into language. Language and literacy go hand in hand. We'll touch on some emergent literacy skills that you can expect to see emerge in a child between the ages of 2 and 3. And then we'll talk about some basic concepts as well, in addition to vocabulary, how your child should be using question forms in order to answer and ask questions. And then we'll close by talking about listening skills. I'm really excited to share a resource with you. So if you are able to capture this, maybe by writing it down, or if you have your phone handy, there is a tracker that you can use to track your child's communication, speech and language, as well as other developmental milestones. And this is by the CDC, or the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And this is a wonderful app for children from the age of 2 months to 5 years. And it includes easy to use checklists. You can, once downloaded, get tips from the CDC to support your child's development. And you can also find out what to do if you ever have concerns about your child's development. So this is a wonderful app. I encourage you to download it. Again, from basically birth to age 5, it'll show you how your child should be reaching milestones in terms of how they play, how they learn, how they speak, how they act and move. And it includes, this is something that I really love, photos and videos in the app that illustrate each milestone and make tracking them for your child, easy and fun. And it's recently been updated in April, and I know that they're supposed to be coming out with some Spanish photos and videos soon if they haven't already started to incorporate them. So there's that wonderful resource and tool. So I'd like to start by discussing the main difference between speech and language. Perhaps you've heard the term speech used to describe a child's communication. Perhaps you've heard the term language used. But before we dive into the difference between what is speech and what is language, I would like to discuss the importance of hearing screenings, which can be performed at your pediatrician's office or an ENT or ear, nose, and throat office. So hearing screenings are important, and knowing what your child's hearing level is important because it impacts, depending on if your child does have a hearing disorder, it can impact their speech development, which can impact their language development. And hearing screenings are critical for identifying hearing loss or hearing disorders very early in a child's life. Early detection and management of hearing issues can really influence a child's speech and language development. And so we always want to encourage parents, if they have any concerns, to make sure that they reach out to their pediatrician to request a hearing screening. And if that's not done in office, they can easily obtain a referral to an ENT. So the terms speech and language are often used interchangeably, but they refer to different aspects of communication. So speech is the physical act of producing sounds, and that includes the areas of articulation, speech sound production, voice, how we sound when we're talking. Sometimes our voice can be raspy, it can be harsh. And fluency. And fluency has to do with the smoothness of our voice when we're speaking. Are we stuttering or stammering over our words? So language is the broader system of communication that includes understanding. It's not just speaking, but it's also understanding and using words and sentences. And so today we'll be talking about different aspects of that, which include phonology, morphology, syntax, and semantics. But don't worry about those large terms. I just want you to know that those are things that fall under the umbrella of language. And then also social use of language, or pragmatics. Social skills is also a part of language. So both speech and language are essential for effective communication, but they can be affected by different disorders. So for example, a child could have a speech sound disorder where they're producing or pronouncing certain sounds incorrectly, or they might stutter and have a fluency disorder. So if they have a speech sound disorder, they could have an articulation disorder or something that's described as a phonological disorder if there are certain patterns of errors when they're producing different sounds. But a child with a language disorder may also have trouble understanding what others say. So that would be considered a receptive language disorder. Or perhaps they have difficulty expressing their thoughts, ideas, and feelings. That would be considered an expressive language disorder. So two words sometimes used interchangeably, but very different meaning and different disorders. So the first area that we're going to talk about in terms of communication milestones is feeding. And as you can see here on this chart, there are different milestones that may emerge between the age of 24 to 36 months. And so throughout our talk today, I'd like to provide you with some ideas of different activities that you can do easily at home in your natural environment with your child to target different skills. So in terms of the first one, biting through a variety of foods that have different thickness. So you can offer your child a variety of crunchy, snacks like carrot sticks or apples, apple slices, pretzel rods, things that are safe for them to chew and that will dissolve in their mouth easily are also good. And during lunchtime or different meal times, you can have sandwiches that have different fillings and bread types to kind of expose them to different textures. So they're not eating just, mushy foods or soft foods or hard foods. They have a variety of textures, including chewy ones like dried fruits and fruit snacks. When we talk about making sure that the child is having opportunities to bring a spoon or fork to their mouth, some things that you can do during mealtime to practice this skill, again, is providing a variety of foods that can easily be picked up with a spoon or fork. Examples would be that, like mashed potatoes, or maybe peas or pasta. And you want to encourage your child to self-feed. So maybe you're kind of fading away from feeding them by hand, and you may be prompting them a little bit to pick up their spoon or fork and get it to their mouth. But it's really important for them to start self-feeding. And then, yogurt and applesauce are also easy things to use to help them practice getting that spoon, getting the food onto the spoon and into their mouths. So yeah, these are all very different things that you can do to help your child. And looking at like chewing with the lips closed, maybe it's something fun that you could do during mealtime, or an idea of something fun that you can do during mealtime is have a stationary mirror placed on the table, so that they can kind of see what is happening with their mouth, with their lips, with their tongue while they're chewing. So if they are watching themselves chew in a mirror, they can practice keeping their lips closed while chewing. And you can model that in the mirror for them as well. This is a speech sound development chart, which shows speech sound acquisition for children between the ages of 2 and 8. And there have been many charts developed over the years, but there are some different activities that you can do to encourage speech sounds, or to help your child to make those speech sounds. So you can do sound imitation games where you make a sound and then you have your child to imitate you. So maybe you're using some of these early developing lip sounds, bilabial sounds, where 2 lips are coming together, such as in producing the sound for letter P, letter B, the letter M. And you can have your child to imitate you making these sounds. A great way to do that is to have mirror play time, where you're both looking in the mirror, your child is looking at the shape of your mouth, and you're helping them to produce those sounds. Another fun activity is animal sounds. So you can use animal toys or pictures and make corresponding animal sounds and sing songs that target different animal sounds, like Old MacDonald Had a Farm, different things of that nature. So we talked about speech sound disorders, and I also mentioned that a child can have errors that are phonological in nature, which means that they have a pattern to their errors, and we call those phonological processes. So there are some phonological processes that are not considered for the child to have disordered speech, because these are processes or error patterns that are supposed to disappear by the time that the child turns 3 years of age. So the names of those processes are on the left side, and then there's a description in the middle column. And so some different things that you can do to work on getting your child to produce, for example, the syllable, multi-syllable words. So in the first example, we have unstressed syllable deletion. And a child, instead of pronouncing the word as a banana, may say nana. So they drop that first syllable. So some things that you can do are clapping out the syllable so they can actually kind of hear that there are multiple parts to that word. Instead of 2, it's really banana, and you can stress and emphasize that first syllable. Picture books are a great way to target different sounds. So you can read simple picture books together, point to objects and name them, and then ask your child to repeat the words, and you can clap out the syllables. You can sing songs together to help your child in clearly pronouncing some of the words that they have difficulty in saying. And in singing songs where there's a lot of repetition, it gives your child extra opportunities for practice. Here are some additional processes that continue after the age of 3. And so, for example, you'll see at the very top, one of these processes or error patterns is something called cluster reduction. And an example would be 2 consonants side by side, the child drops one of those consonants and reduces the structure of the word. So the word clean is given as an example. And a child who drops off the letter L, which is a later developing sound for a child 2 to 3 years old, 2 to 3 years old, would pronounce it as keen. So cluster reduction is something that does continue to persist after the age of 3. It's not unusual. Another one is gliding. So you'll see what happens, for example, is a child will substitute a W sound for a Y sound. So that letter J is a yes sound. So they'll substitute, for example, W for a yes sound. So instead of saying, in this example, run, the child says one. Or instead of saying yellow, the child may say lello. There are different types of gliding substitutions, but these are typical for a child between the age of 2 and 3. So there are some sound errors that should be looked at for this age range, and there are others that are just part of typical normal development, and it's okay. And here are some additional phonological patterns. So these are just examples of what those errors look like and the age that they're expected to disappear. So the second one is called assimilation, and that is where a child may take the sound that's at the end of a word and use it at the beginning of the word, or vice versa. So in this example, the word cat is pronounced as tat. That is a common error production, and that disappears around the age of 3. So these are just some different examples of when you can expect for different processes to disappear. And you can model those incorrect or model correct productions for incorrect production. So if the child says tat, tat, I see tat, a natural model would be, oh, it's a cat. Cats say meow, hi, cat. And so you might prompt your child with like a physical cue or touch just to kind of get them to feel where that sound comes from, or perhaps you'll put their hand on your throat for that sound, since you can feel it there. That way they can see where to pronounce the word, where to pronounce the sound. So here's an example of the speech intelligibility expectations for children based on their age range. And if we look at the second row, children between the ages of 2 to 3 tend to have speech that is not 100% intelligible. So I'm sure that's not a surprise, but it should be about, 50 to 75%, halfway intelligible, almost, almost near being pretty easy to decipher. However, we all know that every child, as they're developing their sound system, it may be easier for family members and individuals who are around the child all the time to understand their sound system, and more difficult for example, family members who haven't seen them in a long time to understand what they're saying at word level, phrase level, or sentence level if some of their sounds are produced inaccurately due to just normal speech development. So as they're acquiring the different speech sounds and they're becoming more familiar with their mouth and their oral motor movements and where their tongue should be and where your lips, or where their lips should be when they're pronouncing or producing certain sounds and words, the more intelligible their speech generally does become. So in terms of an activity or things that you can do to target this, we can practice slow and clear speech with our kids. We can encourage them to speak slowly and clearly by modeling that. So we can model slow, clear speech and emphasize the correct pronunciation of words. And again, natural models are best. So instead of saying, no, the word isn't tat, it's cat, simply model it instead of correcting. Oh, you're right, that is a black cat. What sound does that cat make? Oh, it says meow. So you want for them to feel encouraged, even despite their speech sound errors, to continue to persist in trying to produce the sounds correctly via these natural models. Another fun thing that you can do is you can play a sound sorting game. So maybe you have two containers and you're working on the sound B. Letter B makes the B sound. So you gather different items that start with letter B, and maybe the other sound you're working on is letter D. D. So you find other items that are starting with that letter and you sort them into groups, or maybe they're pictures of those items, and they're flashcards that you easily have at home. So you take all the B pictures or all the B objects, and you take all of the D pictures and all the D objects, either or, and you sort them. And so you ask your child, oh, what sound do you hear in the beginning of that word? What is that picture? It's a ball. I hear a B sound. And perhaps the container has the letter B written on it, or it has the flashcard for letter B and the flashcard for letter D on these containers, and you practice sorting. So there's just a really fun way to help your child in producing sounds that are difficult. Maybe you just target those few sounds, one sound that they definitely already have with a sound that they're still learning or still emerging. And you kind of play that game to kind of tune their ear into the difference between the sounds and where the sound is produced. Again, having that mirror handy, if you have a stationary mirror, one that can easily be moved around the house, small ones that you can easily get at like the dollar store, those are perfect to have during activities like this. So now we're gonna segue into language and talk about pronouns. So there is no clear-cut progression for the acquisition of pronouns. However, most experts agree that the pronoun I and the pronoun it are the first pronouns to emerge, followed by the pronoun you. And research also indicates that children who use most what we call subjective and objective pronouns by 3 years of age, and possessive pronouns are typically used by them by the age of 5. So let's talk a little bit about some activities that you can do to target simple pronouns like I, it, mine, me, mine, you, and your. So again, I'm going to talk about using a mirror. So with a mirror in place, maybe your child is standing in front of it in the bathroom, or maybe you have a long mirror somewhere in a hallway in your home. You can stand in front of the mirror with your child and talk about what you see using different pronouns. For example, ooh, I see me. Who do you see? You see you. This is my nose. That is your mouth. Oh, where is my mouth? Can you find my mouth? And so you're just practicing using these simple pronouns by looking in the mirror. So maybe you model what you're wearing. I'm wearing, or I have a red shirt. Your turn, what do you have? I have a blue shirt. That's right. Oh, look, my shoes are white. Tell me, look, what are your shoes? My shoes are, and so some of these things don't even require use of a mirror, but a mirror is just a really fun way of targeting body parts, especially if you're talking about things or, facial features. Oh, look, am I happy or sad? I'm sad. Oh, look at you. Are you happy or are you sad? And, just playing with different facial expressions and, again, identifying body parts. An additional way to practice a my pronoun is by taking turns. So during turn-taking activities, whether you're playing a game or maybe you're reading a book together, you can practice intentionally using the phrase, my turn. Whose turn is it? You tell me. It's my turn. Oh, now it's your turn. So using my and your during turn-taking activities is also a great way to practice those particular pronouns. So now we're going to transition to morphology, which is the study of how morphemes or word units are put together. So a morpheme is the smallest meaningful unit in language, and grammatical morphemes apply the use of inflection, which helps signal the meaning of different nouns, verbs, and adjectives. So let's talk about activities that you can do to target different morphemes or different words. So let's imagine you're reading an action story with your child. So something that has a lot of movement happening. And as you're reading these stories that are using lots of present progressive verbs, you can, if your child, of course, is not yet reading, maybe they're an emergent reader, but with these picture books that have a lot of action, it's easier to script what's happening using, for example, the present progressive ing form of a verb. So you could say, oh, look, the cat is jumping, or, oh, the boy is running. Oh, no, what's happening here? Look at the baby. The baby is crying. And you can act out a lot of these actions to make it fun as you're reading the stories. Can you show me running? Maybe not in the house, maybe outside. Can you show me jumping? Can you show me sleeping? What does it look like when you're sleeping? Oh, yeah. And then also picture description. So using picture books or flashcards to describe what is happening in a picture. I love flashcards because they're so versatile. You can work on targeting nouns, verbs, adjectives, colors, shapes, sizes, so many different things with flashcards. So those are always a great thing to keep handy, and the dollar store has them in plenty. And Target bins typically have a lot of these things around the summertime and the beginning of the school year. So you can find some great finds everywhere, including online. I'm sure on Amazon, there's a ton of things that you can find as well. But generally, there are things around your house that you can use, so you really don't have to go out and purchase a lot of these items. And we talked earlier in the opening about mean length of utterance. And so for English-speaking children, the mean length of utterance, or what is termed MLU, is a fairly reliable predictor of the complexity of the child's language. So are they using one word? Are they using 2 to 3 word combinations? How long is the mean length or the average length of their utterance or what they're saying? And it typically increases 1.2 morphemes per year, or like 1.25 words per year, from the time a child is a year and a half or 18 months to 5 years of age. So as they're getting older, you'll start to see, okay, I hear them using 1 or 2 more words and expanding their utterances. And you can always model for your child. Let's say they're only producing 1 word combinations. You can provide that natural model of expanding that utterance for them. So if they're only labeling nouns, book, dog, cat, you can say, oh, big book, or oh, black cat, oh, brown dog. Give them an adjective in front of those nouns to help them to expand the length of their utterance. And then in terms of labeling objects around the house, that's a great thing. You can play I Spy. I see, so maybe you want to help them expand to 3 words. I see something red. So this is a great way of not only practicing expanding the length of their utterance by giving them a prompt, like a phrase at the beginning that's repetitive, but they're also having to identify what you're saying. So if you're talking about, I spy something big and yellow, and they're looking around the house for big and yellow, that's a great way for them to practice their understanding or their receptive language skills when it comes to different vocabulary. Pragmatics. Pragmatics is also known as social skills, and it's the study of speaker-listener intentions and interactions and all of the elements and the environment that surround the message. And as I said, it's often referred to as social skills or social language skills. So here are a couple of activities that you can do that target these particular social skills or pragmatics. You can create play dates for your child. Socialization is very key if your child is not school age yet, or perhaps they're not in a daycare or a preschool program. Arranging play dates gives your child the opportunity to initiate play with another child. It's a great way for you to guide your child's play. So sometimes, a child may engage in parallel play where they're just sitting next to a peer, and that's okay. And maybe they're watching each other play, they're building their own things separately. Perhaps they're commenting, or you can help them if they're not yet doing that. Oh, look, what is he doing? He is. And you can use different verbs and different nouns to help build their language and also help with the social skill interaction. And then, as children get a little bit older, they come together and they start to play together. They're really interested in what the other person is doing, knocking down someone's tower, etc. But you can encourage your child to watch others and gently guide them to join in the play. So perhaps you're on a playground and you say, oh, look, they're going down the slide. Let's go over, and say hello. Let's take turns. And maybe there's an opportunity for you all to practice my turn, your turn. The next area I would like to talk about is role-playing games. So you can engage in simple role-playing games to practice these pragmatic or social skills. For example, maybe you have a little set at home where your child can practice cooking in a play kitchen, or perhaps your child enjoys dressing up dolls or playing with toy cars. You can have different roles where you're the chef, or maybe you're the customer, or maybe you're in the grocery store. So you're playing these different roles. And I think that when it comes to requesting, this is also something that you can engage in during these type of role-playing activities. So asking for something. So maybe someone's in a kitchen and they're cooking, they can ask for what they want to eat, or they can pretend that they're at the grocery store and they can use phrasing like, where is the, or do you have, or if they're playing as if they're in a restaurant, you can have little menus and use words like, I want, to practice requesting. And again, modeling is very helpful. If you model for your child the words to use, it's easier for them to use some of those simple phrases and add different words at the end. All right, so in terms of literacy, I talked about how language and literacy go hand in hand. And here are some examples of different milestones that you can expect to see for a child between the ages of 2 to 3. And some activities that you can do. For example, a simple one is practicing holding a book correctly. So when you're reading a book to your child, talk about the front of the book and the back of the book. And depending on their level of understanding, you can talk about how books have names. And this book has this book has the title, Pete the Cat. Or you can open the book and talk about the way that we turn the pages and where we put our fingers as we're reading the book. So we can track the words with our fingers. And these are just really easy emergent skills that you can do, for example, with the book. In terms of story time, perhaps your child likes to listen to books or stories, and you can increase the amount of time that they're able to listen to the story. Maybe you read to them during bath time for a short period of time. Maybe you read to them during bedtime. But you want to make sure that your story times are interactive, where your child is having a turn to answer questions, to make comments, to find pictures on the page. They're having opportunities to name or label what they see in terms of nouns, and they're not only labeling nouns, but they're using verbs to describe the action words, and they're using adjectives to describe maybe the size, shape, or color of different things. So this is a great way to incorporate story time and target these different skills. Storytelling with props is so much fun, and working with early childhood populations, I would always have various props for them to use that coincide with the story. So if the books is about colors and shapes, then I have multiple pictures and objects that are different colors and shapes. Or if it's about animals, then I have animal puppets, or I have stuffed animals. And so these just really help to enrich the literacy experience. All right, so phonological awareness is also an emergent literacy skill or an early literacy skill, reading skill. And it's the ability to manipulate the structure of an utterance, or like, for example, of a word independently from its meaning. It's an auditory task, a listening task, and it requires for your child to manipulate the utterance at either the word level, the syllable level, or the sound level. So for example, in the word banana, it has 3 syllables, banana. But then we also have different sounds in each syllable. So in the syllable ba, we have the letter B, and we have the letter B, which makes the B sound, and the letter A. And so we practice with our phonological awareness skills different sorts of things. We practice segmenting syllables, or taking words that have multi-syllables and separating them by perhaps playing a clapping game. And so an activity you can do is one that I like to call clap and say. So you clap your hands and you say the syllables of the word. So banana. And you encourage your child to clap along, and repeat those syllables with you. Same thing, you can do hop and count, where they're hopping each of the syllables out in a word. And then in terms of blending activities, you can have words that have multiple syllables that you say separately. So you stretch out the word into the syllables. So cup, cake. And then you have your child blend it together to tell you, what word is that? Cake, cup, cake, cup, cake. I think about the characters from Sesame Street and how, they would take the syllables of the words and push them together until you could figure out what that word was, what that multi-syllable word was. All right, so here are some additional activities that you can do to target phonological awareness skills. So for example, you can play, I'm going to go towards we'll do sound deletion. You can play a sound deletion game where you take away sounds. You can say a word, then say it again without the first sound. So we'll use the word cat since we've used it quite a bit during today's presentation. So cat without the k sound is at. And then you have your child to do the same with simple words. Ball without the B sound is all. And I find it helpful with these types of activities where you're segmenting and blending to use blocks, letter blocks. So our old school ABC blocks, if you still have some of those handy at home, I would pull those out and use those to practice segmenting or splitting up the sounds and syllables of words. So at, cat, or let's see, if we take away the k, what word is that now? At. Or if we take away the T at the end, what do we have? K, ah. So you can do so many different things with using blocks. Similarly, you could use flashcards, alphabet flashcards, if you didn't have blocks at home. All right, let's talk about basic concepts. So knowledge of basic concepts is an essential component of language development. And basic concepts include terms that describe the position or location of something. We call those spatial concepts. Time, like today, yesterday, and tomorrow. Equality, quantity, and comparisons as well. And so a lot of different things that you can do at home to target these concepts involve directions. So having your child to follow simple one-step directions at home is very helpful in helping them to learn these concepts. So let's say you're playing a treasure hunt game and you're hiding toys or objects in different places, and you ask your child to find them. Find the toy that's under the table, or put the block in the box. So you're targeting these spatial concepts under and in this example. Maybe you're doing a counting game and you ask your child to give you one. So give me one block, give me two blocks. Oh, give me all the blocks. So using these terms while you're playing with your child is helping them to solidify their understanding of different basic concepts. You can do this even during snack time, counting fruit, counting crackers or goldfish, asking your child to give you one or two items and then you're counting them all together. You can also do toy grouping by color or by shape or by size. So maybe you find all of the toys that are round and you put them in this basket, or maybe you find all of the things that are red and you put them in this basket. So you can help your child to identify these different concepts by having them find them. So you model or show them, this is red. Can you help me find three more things that are red? Or this is a big ball and this is a little ball. Can you help me find three other things that we have in the room that are big and little? Maybe it's a big truck and a little truck, or a big shirt and a little shirt. There are just so many different ways that you can target these different concepts by using simple things around the house. All right, as we move on to vocabulary, I'm going to take a minute and look at the chat. I see something in the chat. Okay, that wasn't for me. Perfect. So in terms of vocabulary, your child's vocabulary is going to expand exponentially over time as they grow. And as you can see, if you look at this chart, from the age of 12 months to 12 years, this is just an average or an approximation, I should say, of the words that a child accumulates in their vocabulary. And you can see that growth is exponential, even in the first 2 years of life. So here are some activities you can do. You can play flashcard games using flashcards with pictures of animals, food, people, different objects, and simply show your child the card and ask them to name what they see, and praise them for correct answers. And you can take turns. Maybe you're playing it like a game if your child's a little bit older, if they're 3, where you have some cards and they have some cards, and you take turns picking a card. And if you want to help expand length of utterance during this activity, you can say something like, I picked fish, or I have dog, or it's a bird. You can use different phrasing, so it's not always I see, I have, and use those different opportunities to, make it fun, switch it up a little bit. You can play a memory game with flashcards and practice vocabulary that way. So there are so many different ways that you can target these skills. Another way to get in practice of answering and asking questions is you can ask your child simple questions about their day or surroundings. So, oh, what did you do at school today? What did you see on the playground? What did you eat at snack time? Different questions can be asked, and you can prompt your child to complete the sentences. Another fun one that I like that coincides with emergent or early literacy skills is playing rhyming games. So playing rhyming games where you say a word and your child has to come up with the word that rhymes with it. And this may be a skill that your child has to learn with time, right? Maybe they're not familiar with rhyming quite yet. But if they're familiar with nursery rhymes, maybe they're already starting to play with some rhyming. So books like Cat in the Hat that have rhyming, or simple nursery rhyme stories that you have in books at home, you can use that to expand upon, other things that rhyme with the words that you are hearing frequently in a rhyme. Next, we're going to talk about questions. So we'll first talk about answering questions and different activities that you can do with your child to target that skill. And then we'll talk about asking questions. So in order to help your child to become more familiar with answering questions, here are a couple of things that you can try at home. One is pointing to objects when described. So maybe you're playing a what do you wear game, and you have various clothing items, for example, hats, a shoe or shoes, excuse me, and a shirt. And you ask questions like, what do you wear on your head? And you encourage your child to point or pick up the item. So if your child is not yet able to formulate a lot of words when answering questions, they're still answering a question if they're selecting a question from a field of multiple items. So maybe they can identify the item, like they know it's hat, but maybe they're not saying hat. If they're finding it from 3 other items, then that's showing that they have receptive knowledge or understanding of the word. And then you can model for them naturally. That's right, that's a hat. You wear a hat on your head. So you can do this with actual objects. You can do this with pictures. And I think that hands-on activities are great. So if you do have actual objects, that's a really fun way to target vocabulary. Here's another idea. So toy box descriptions. You can use a box of toys and describe each one. Which one is soft and cuddly? So maybe maybe there's a book in there, maybe there's a ball in there, maybe there's a teddy bear, and your child would respond correctly by selecting the teddy bear. Maybe they just pick it up, and you can model for them if they're not yet using different words that are novel to them. This is just an example, but if they didn't say teddy bear, you could label that for them and say, yes, a teddy bear is soft and cuddly. Oh, let's squeeze it. Do you feel how soft it is? So you want to use repetition and using the different vocabulary, whether you're talking about adjectives or you're talking about concepts like size. You want to use that over and over again as you're describing the picture of the object that the child has selected. All right, so now we're going to talk about asking questions. And here are some different things that you can do to target this particular skill. So during snack time, you can place a favorite treat that's in view, right? They can see it, but they can't reach it. So I think about kids who go into the kitchen and they know exactly what they want and they go for it. They don't even have to ask you because they can get it. But sometimes there's something they want that's up in the cabinet and it's out of reach and it's out of view, but they know that's where it's at. So think about that when I provide this activity example. So during snack time, you can place one of their favorite treats in view, but out of reach. So maybe it's on a counter, like in the very, very back, so they can't reach it, even if they were on their tippy toes. So you would prompt your child verbally by asking them or saying to them, what do you want? And encourage them to ask, cookie, where cookie? Can I have cookie? Or perhaps you're playing a toy hunt game. You're going on a toy hunt and you can hide a favorite toy and give hints about its location and encourage your child, if they're a little bit older, this might be something they can do. Encourage your child to ask questions like, where's toy? Where's ball? And maybe you're going around the house and you're actually looking for it. Ball, where are you? Is it under the bed? No, it's not under the bed. Ball, where are you? Is it in the closet? No. And you just keep looking and you're practicing spatial concepts like in, under, on. And maybe you have your child have a turn and they're asking, maybe it's a doll, maybe it's not a ball. Doll, where are you? Or whatever it is, their favorite stuffed animal. But you're practicing this game and you're kind of getting in character with them, like, oh, I wonder, where could it be? And where do you think it could be? And so just really get into asking different questions to find things that are hidden around the house. Let's talk about a way that you can do this while grocery shopping. So you can take your child grocery shopping and point out various items in the store. Prompt them by asking, what is this? Or what is that? About different foods and products. Ooh, what color is that? Oh, is that cold or hot? Is it warm or cold? Um, Is that a big box of cereal or a little box of cereal? Hmm. You can just get really creative with it. What things do you see in the produce section that are orange? Can we find two things that are orange? Oh, oranges are orange, and oh, carrots are orange. Oh, let's find things that are shaped like a ball. Can you help me find three things that are shaped like a ball? So just so many different things. In the grocery store, it's endless what you can do. All right, the next area we're going to talk about is listening. So listening is something that is not the same as hearing. And listening skills involve a child's ability to attend to and process what they're hearing. So these skills are integral components of a child's speech and language, social, and their academic development as well. So here are a couple of listening activities, and you'll see the different milestones. So I have a couple that coincide. You can play Simon Says, for example, with body part commands. For example, Simon says, touch your nose. Simon says, show me your foot. And you can also encourage your child to follow along and touch the correct body part on themselves and on you. You can practice following two-step directions easily in the home by creating a simple treasure hunt list with two-step directions. So find your teddy bear and bring it to me. Find the book and put it on the table. Take off your shoes and put them in the closet. Well, that's not a fine, but still just different things. Maybe you're cleaning up with them and they don't realize you're playing the cleanup game, right? So, oh, let's find the toys and put them in your, I don't know, maybe you have like a bin, put them in your toy bin. So you can vary this up quite a bit. Let's talk about an activity where you can target following directions that include action verbs, adverbs, or action and adjectives combination. So you can play an action and adverb game, and you can give your child directions that combine actions with adverbs. So maybe, oh, this takes me back. Maybe you're walking slowly. Maybe you're jumping high. Mother May I. It just brought me back to Mother May I. Mother May I don't know how many of you guys in the audience are familiar with that one. May I take 2 steps? Yes, you may take 2 steps. Or jump 3 times and touch your nose. I mean, you can just vary it. And let's see, for demonstrating understanding of several verbs by selecting corresponding pictures, you can do an action sorting game. So back to using pictures or flashcards, you can gather toys if you want to use real objects that depict different actions. So you have different objects that are representative of different actions that you do with them, and you have different pictures, either or, right? You can ask your child to sort them into groups based on the verb. Put all the pictures here that show eating. Put all the pictures here that show playing. And my favorite, this last one here, recognizing family labels such as baby or grandpa. Photo albums. It's summertime, your kids are home. Print out pictures or get some pictures printed out at wherever you go to get your pictures printed out, and make a photo album. Get a cheap photo album from the Dollar Tree and have them make a family photo album. And this is wonderful because your child can practice, especially if there are pictures of people in action. Mommy laughing, daddy eating, baby sleeping, grandpa, I don't know, watching TV. But you can make these action family albums, or you can have ones that are just nouns where it's mommy, daddy, and you're practicing the names of family members, right? Or maybe you have your pets in there too, because pets are also family members. So you can use these for multiple things, but family photo albums are a really good way to target vocabulary. So that brings me to the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, my name is Meridith Rose. I am a pediatric speech language pathologist, and I'm also a full-time special education doctoral student at Georgia State University. Please feel free to follow me and HomeTele SLP on social media to learn more about our future events. That QR code is to my website, HomeTeleSLP.com, where I do offer free consults if you have questions related to um, any of the milestones that we talked about today, or if you have any other questions related to speech and language development. I do want to encourage you to definitely download the Milestone Tracker app. And for those of you who may have joined a little bit later, I'm going to bring that up so you can see what I'm referring to. So this is the CDC, or the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's easy to use Milestone Tracker app. It will allow you to track your child's milestones from age 2 months to 5 years. You can get tips to support your child's development, find out what to do if you ever have concerns about your child's development. That would definitely be a conversation with your pediatrician to see if they're in need of an evaluation. And then also, this has photos and videos in the app that illustrate each milestone, and it just makes the tracking process more easy and fun. And so with that, I am closing. And again, I thank you for participating in today's presentation.
Thank you, Meredith. I do see a couple of questions in the chat. One says, my daughter has autism. Do you have any specific tips for neurodivergent kiddos?
Yes, I think that depending on what sorts of things your child may be sensory averse to, I do have some ideas of kid-friendly tips for children who are neurotypical as well as neurodivergent. If you would please reach out to me on my website, I can schedule a short 30-minute free consult with you to discuss that in more detail.
All right, if we don't have any other questions, then I think we're going to go ahead and close out our program. Thank you, Meredith, for this wonderful program. We really appreciate it. We hope to see you all for our next program that's going to take place on July 27th at 11 a.m. And that one is going to cover children ages 3 and 4. So if you want more information on that, please feel welcome to visit Gwinnett County Public Library's website for registration. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Meredith. This was great. And we hope to see you next time.